Hey, get inspired, Michiana. You are here for Friday Morning Life Inspired Stories, and we have very special guests today, Lisa and Mike Davis. And they're here, and they're going to tell us a little bit about the ministry that they have called Deeper Still of Northern Indiana. And if you've never watched Life Inspired before, we come on every Friday morning at 9:30, and we're talking about how life was going along and God did some kind of intervention moment in your life and turned your trajectory to a different path, and now you're walking an inspired path. And everybody's got different, different turning points in their life, and we've got a really special story from Lisa and Mike, so I appreciate y'all being here very much.
Thank you.
And I do want to give a little shout out to my daughter who is watching us from the audience. We've never had an audience here before, but I have 3 wonderful daughters, and one of them got to come down and watch us live today. Thanks for coming. So anyway, I like to ask you 3 questions. What's the turning point? Back up behind it. What was life like before the turning point? And then how are you inspired after? So you want to go first, Lisa? Tell us about life before your turning point moment.
Well, my turning point moment came when I was 31, when I came to Christ.
Okay.
Prior to that, I grew up in church. I believed in God, but I really didn't have a personal relationship with Jesus. And one of the things that happened when I was 18 was probably one of the most formative things of my life. And that was that when I was 18, I found out that I was pregnant, and I was pregnant with Mike's baby. And because I didn't really have a really strong foundation to make decisions with, I ended up at a clinic that was an abortion clinic. And I was so naive at 18, I didn't even realize that where I was getting my pregnancy test at was an abortion clinic.
Oh, wow.
And as a result of that, they kind of put an appointment in my hand after my positive test. I walked out the door, and 2 weeks later, I kept that abortion appointment. And you know my daughter, Kendra, who used to work with you. So after we had children, the reality of that decision really, really sunk in. So we had Kendra first, and then we had our son, Matthew, and having those 2 little people who were directly related to our first child just absolutely hit me like a ton of bricks. And I had made lots of excuses for why I had to do what I did, and there were reasons why an unplanned pregnancy was just not good at that time, but those reasons aren't valid before God. And so I just found myself, after our son was born, just telling God, I am wholeheartedly sorry for what I did. And a few months later, I was just encountering a lot of things that had to do with Jesus. And I realized that Jesus died on the cross for my sins, for that sin as well, and that He could forgive me for this, and that I could walk in freedom instead of in all that kind of paralysis and guilt and shame and self-punishment that I was in prior to that. And so that happened when I was 31. That was my turning point.
And I love the word self-punishment, because we do that. When we walk away a different way, we do punish ourselves so much. So what about you, Mike? For your story, might be a different turning point for you, but what's a backstory to a turning point in your life?
Well, mine would probably be more like 2 turning points in my life.
Okay.
The first, of course, was my coming to Christ when I was 38.
Okay.
After I had a praying wife that wouldn't quit. She stayed on me for a good many years, and finally the Lord got to me, and that changed my attitude.
Okay.
That changed some of my character. I still wasn't complete. My relationship with her and my relationship with our kids still wasn't where it should have been. It wasn't as a godly man.
Okay.
The real turning point came after my retreat at Deeper Still, like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Okay.
It really changed me.
Okay.
With my relationship with the kids, my relationship with her, just an amazing turnaround.
Okay. Do you mind if we go further and find out, so if that's the turning point, elaborate on the turning point. Tell us, you went on this retreat.
Well, prior to this retreat, my kids, we had a good relationship.
Okay.
But but not what it should have been. I mean, I was overprotective. I was not exactly the kindest man.
Okay.
I guess is the way I would put it.
Okay.
The way I treated him was not right. And when what made me realize this was I still had wounds that I had to deal with that went back to the abortion.
Okay.
I had gone through a Bible study a number of years ago with another guy, and it was actually a Bible study that two of us went through that was written by a woman for a man to do, and we kept going through this. What was it? 8 weeks, 10 weeks. Mitch and I were going through this Bible study, and it's like, okay, well that doesn't make sense. Okay, well that doesn't make sense. It was. I learned some things. We learned some things, but it wasn't healing. I mean, at the end of it, we both looked at each other and go, did you learn anything? Are you healed? Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. Life went on. There was no change. Once deeper still got in there, it's just like it says, it's deeper still. You start digging and you find the demons and everything that's hiding in there that you had no idea was there.
Right, for sure. Okay, so your turning point was coming to that realization. And your turning point, the bigger one, was going to Deeper Still retreat. So then we say, now you're walking inspired. So, I mean, maybe bring us up to why now you chose to affiliate with Deeper Still and establish Deeper Still of Northern Indiana. Can you share about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So I've been heavily involved in the pro-life ministry for 20-some years.
Okay.
And I worked at a crisis pregnancy center in Fort Wayne and led post-abortion Bible studies there for women who had had abortions. Mitch, as he had mentioned, is a man that came alongside me to help me hopefully reach out to men, but we really struggled to reach out to men. And so I did those for 18 years, and 2 or 3 times a year we'd have a Bible study with somewhere between 2 to 5 women. And it was really relatively successful because of God and because women were just in need of it. And through those Bible studies, I got more and more healing. Every time I went through God's Word, the Lord just did more and more work in my heart. And so when I went to my Deeper Still retreat, well, let me back up a little bit. I found that those Bible studies, it was very difficult to continue reaching people because we have a little bit of national ADD, like attention deficit disorder. Nobody really wants to sit, it seems like, and spend 10 to 14 weeks in a Bible study anymore.
Right.
And we were really struggling to reach people and to find women who wanted to do this. And I felt the Lord starting to lead us in a direction of doing retreats, but I couldn't wrap my mind around it.
Right.
So through my work at that pregnancy center, I went to a CareNet conference, which is like the parent organization of about half the pregnancy centers in the United States. I went to that CareNet conference, and then I encountered the people from Deeper Still.
Okay.
Deeper Still was founded in Knoxville.
Okay.
And so there's about 10, 11 chapters now. We're one of the more recent chapters. We were just formed last May.
Okay.
Officially. And of course, I said, I really want to do this. I want to do this.
Right.
This is like exactly where I feel like the Lord has been leading us. And they said, well, you've got to go through your own retreat, and you need to go as a participant and to receive. And so even after 20 years of doing Bible studies on this subject and getting more and more healing, speaking publicly, going to churches and radio stations and talking about this everywhere, feeling very healed, I went to my own retreat, and it is the perfectly named ministry. It's Deeper Still.
Wow.
The Lord just took me deeper into healing. I was able to grieve the loss of my child, where I was helping so many other people grieve their losses. I was able to grieve and receive comfort from the Deeper Still team. And just a lot, they use a lot of things. They involve tangible symbols to help people to connect it in their brain with what they're teaching.
Okay.
They teach from, of course, a biblical standpoint. There's lots of prayer. It's infused with lots of prayer, lots of worship, lots of one-on-one ministry time to the participants. It's just a really beautiful, it's very intense, but it's a beautiful experience. And by the time my retreat was done, I felt just so much lighter and free. And after all those Bible studies, after all that work, God still did more work through the Deeper Still retreats. And I just knew all the more that that was where we needed to go in forming our own chapter. So I went home and told Mike about it, and I think he saw some changes in me. And
so what did that do for you when she comes home and then you start, and she says, can we go do this?
She says, you have to go.
You did not go as a couple?
No, she went on her own.
Okay.
She
but
went
people
on her
do
own.
go as couples.
Yeah.
Actually,
usually they do it separately,
Okay.
so that they don't kind of get mixed up with each other during the retreat time.
Okay. So you went, and she said, you've got to go. And
I mean, I saw such a change in her. I mean, like she said, she's been doing this for 20 years, you know, and there was, you could see some progress in there. But when she came back from this after a weekend, it's like, wow, something really changed you. And it's like, okay. Of course, you know, men, we just, well, I can do this my own. But, you know, you let God work on you, and he's like, you need to go. And I finally said, okay, I'm going to go. And I got to be honest, I sat at the bottom of that mountain going, I don't need to go up there. I don't need to go. And God's going, you're going.
I'm making you go.
You're going.
How did you hear him? How did you hear him say you're going?
It was evident.
Just a sense in your body?
Just a sense in my body.
Made you feel that way.
Just looking at the beauty up there, it's like, okay. You know, probably one part of me is going, I want to go up there because it's gorgeous. I took her up there and dropped her off because she was there at my retreat. She was on the team. So.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I was on the team there. It was really cool because abortion deeply impacts a relationship. And even though we've had a healthy relationship that I guess I would say that God has held us together for many, many years. We've had a fairly stable marriage, but there was always a lot of blaming. There was always a lot of sort of finger pointing, and I think that a lot of that stemmed from the abortion. We always kind of wanted to, I always just wanted to point the finger at him, and he wanted to point the finger at me, and that made for some tension in our home, which I think our children felt, and we certainly felt. And so this is the first time, we've been married 33 years. This last year has been the first time in our marriage where we are relating on a really healthy level, in a really healthy, loving way. And I want to tell people out there that if you're in a marriage where things are not where you would like them to be, that God can help you, even if there's an abortion in the past, but if there's not an abortion in the past, God can help you have a healthier relationship.
And I was going to ask you that. So this is not just post-abortive healing. This is anybody that just wants to go deeper with Christ can go on these retreats.
Well, it would be nice. Many people would love to go if they're not post-abortive, and I think that you could replicate what Deeper Still does for other issues. Now, they do stay very centered. We stay very centered on post-abortion, because it's such a deep, impacting wound in our culture.
But it's not for someone else that just has, maybe baggage from their childhood that they have never overcome, or perhaps a rape victim or something like that. It's not for them. This particular program is really post-abortive.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Great.
But I could definitely see retreats popping up for those things, for other reasons. And some of the team of members at the Deeper Still retreat are not post-abortive. But they say, I've gone through some elements of this. We have a manual that we follow. Some of the prayers in here, I've prayed through these things. I've prayed through these releases, because there's some other things that are not directly related to abortion, like soul ties. Many people have soul ties with past relationships, with past unhealthy connections with people, places, and things. And so there's some prayers in the manual that go through dealing with soul ties, and anybody could go through praying through soul ties, that's for sure. Awesome. And they do, the non-post-abortive team members do. But it's the team is a redemptive community. What we want to do is portray and actually communicate to the participants a redemptive community where people really love one another, really work together cooperatively, really care for one another, and it shows so that they have hope that they can find that redemptive community in their Bible-believing churches and in their small groups and places like that.
Right. Awesome. Anything final you want to share, Mike? Anything about
I'd like to just share something with the guys if I can. This is something to think about. Now, if there's been 60, 70 million babies aborted, you think about this, that's 60, well, let's say this. Most of the post-abortive women that are out there have not had just one abortion, they've had multiple.
Sure.
I've heard of some of up to 10.
Wow.
So, if these women have had this many abortions, maybe not even with the same man.
Right.
So if we split that down a little bit, 20, 30 million women. So if you say they've had a relationship with 4, 5 different guys, we can multiply that by.
Right.
It's amazing the amount of guys that could be walking around out there that's post-abortive. Maybe you don't know. Maybe the woman didn't share it with you that she had an abortion. But guys, you're not doing yourself a favor if you don't get some help. I'm just saying that your lives will change. There's so much more out there for you, and I know that there's pastors out there that are post-abortive. There's lawyers. There's every walk of life. There's men out there walking around that are wounded, and they need some encouragement. They need some strengthening. They need the Lord to come into their lives and just dig.
And I just want to ask, the male heart seems shaped to provide and protect.
Right.
And if you were responsible for asking your girlfriend or wife or whatever to end that pregnancy, does that attack that shape of your heart? Does that?
Oh, there's definitely a wound there for that. God made you to lead. God made you to protect. God made you to provide, just like you said. And if that's not there, we see a lot of men out there that just are not leading the way they're supposed to lead. I failed. I failed even after I came to the Lord. I was still failing until I went through deeper still and got healed more. I mean, I still have some more healing to do. I know that. I'm going to be a work in progress until I go meet Him.
Until you go to heaven, absolutely.
Yeah. Where was I going with that?
But until you come to that point.
Until you come to that point, realize that you are equipped to do this. You can do this. Get rid of this other crap and get in there and lead the way God intended you to lead.
Many people assume that abortion is it's a woman's issue. And that couldn't be more incorrect. It's a people issue. It's actually our whole society's issue. Because abortion has impacted people so deeply that it affects other people. Men and women who have abortions struggle sometimes with a lot of guilt and shame, obviously, depression, sometimes substance abuse, workaholism. Men sometimes will struggle with pornography. I believe that a lot of the issues that our culture is facing today is at least exacerbated by abortion, if not directly caused by abortion in some instances. So if we bring healing, if we allow God to use us to bring healing to people, then many of those issues will begin to heal as well. And our culture will heal as a result. So I think that the harvest is ripe for healing. And we really just appreciate we are based on prayer. Our ministry cannot function without God, and we communicate with God through prayer, as we all do as believers. So prayer is just so important to be praying. Please pray for us and pray for all pro-life ministries, and we really appreciate this opportunity to share. We thank you for your courage in addressing this issue.
So grateful you'd come and share.
It's so important.
Yeah.
It is
We
just
usually
so
have the red couch people that watch every week. There were 3 of us, so we didn't really want to put the red couch out, but we have stories on the red couch because different people have different issues that they need to bring to God. You know, and God fixes them all. He just washes us all clean, and
He does. He's so good.
Thank you guys for sharing. Thank you for coming. Facebook, thank you for watching. We're so grateful that you tune in every week. And if you know someone that could benefit from Deeper Still, we would love for you to message us here. We'll hook you up with Mike or Lisa and get you hooked up with finding out about that here in Northern Indiana or somewhere else. If you know someone that should be a guest on the Red Couch and tell their story about why and how they walk with God, we'd love to get their stories too. And if you just want to have coffee with Mike or Lisa, I know that they would do that. They're in Fort Wayne. Not today, but they have a daughter in town and they come to town often. So if you wanted to meet with them, I know they'd come over here and meet with you. Thanks for watching. You guys have a great weekend. Bye-bye.